满墙满地到处都是血，我没办法面对这一幕，我想让那一切都回到原来，你明白那种心情吗？我就想它没有发生过。
The sweetest love stories hide deadly dangers, turning into an inescapable abyss. Two love stories, two shattered souls, and each one makes you question. Is love a sanctuary or a prison? What lies behind the destruction of these beautiful women? Despair, madness, or something far worse? Today we uncover two shocking tales of love turned tragic, revealing souls consumed by their emotions. Exquisite beauty, wealth and power, desire and control, struggle and abyss. 25 stabs, each one deadly. Have you ever experienced a seemingly sweet relationship, only to find it slowly suffocating you? What would you do when faced with possessiveness and control? Or is this path of no return already written in fate?
那就一瞬间，就那一刹那，我什么都没想，我就是恨他，我就是恨到我想拿刀捅他。
Yang Yang was born in 1976 in Harbin, China. Her parents' divorce taught her independence early on, and she moved to Xiamen with her mother. In this new city, the bright and beautiful girl showed extraordinary talent and resilience. Beauty and intellect seemed to be gifts bestowed upon her from birth, and everything about her, from her academic achievements to her looks, radiated brilliance. At the age of 17, Yang stood out among 3,000 applicants and became a flight attendant for Xiamen Airlines. 2 years later, she was named one of the top 10 stewardesses. With her graceful demeanor and captivating smile, she shone like a star, enchanting everyone around her. Her life seemed almost tailor-made for her, perfect, like a dream. In 1996, on a flight to Beijing, Yang Yang met a man she never expected, Gu Jianmin, a wealthy businessman 10 years her senior. From the moment he first saw her smile, everything began to change. Her beauty, her elegance, captivated this affluent man, causing him to lose all reason.
记得当时他穿了一个蓝色的夹克衫，然后剃一个平头，眼睛很大，就是一直在笑，给我感觉就像一个很快乐的推销员，就是很阳光，就是生活很有朝气的一个，像一个很快乐的，就是充满着好奇的那种推销员的那种感觉啊。
Whether he was asking for coffee or cola, it was only to draw her attention again. When all subtle hints failed, Gu resorted to filling out a passenger feedback card, falsely claiming he needed follow-up service consultation just to obtain her pager number. Yang Yang, perhaps oblivious, didn't realize that this man would soon alter the course of her life forever. At first, Yang Yang didn't pay much attention to Gu Jianmin's pursuit.
这名长得不是很一表人才，但毕竟还挺有能力嘛，而且他觉得他的身份也是未婚。那他二十岁的小女孩子可能就动了感情，他和他去谈朋友。
Day after day, he kept calling her pager. Gu even showed up at her university gate in a luxury car, holding a bouquet of flowers. In that moment, the romance and extravagance moved her deeply. She began to believe that maybe this was the love she had been waiting for.
那时候感觉很快乐，感觉很有希望，生活中充满阳光那种感觉，感觉爱与被爱都是一种需要。那个时候。
After one particularly romantic date, when Yang Yang had a few drinks, Gu took the opportunity to bring her back to the apartment he had prepared for her, where they shared their first night together. From then on, their relationship deepened. Gu even hired a private housekeeper to tend to her every need. Yang Yang was immersed in this world of luxury she had never known before. She felt as though she finally had everything she had ever wanted.
一丝不挂的被人家拍照，然后我去抢的照片我抢不回来。我想这都是因为白天我的心理压力太大了，才会转移到我梦里面。
However, this Cinderella and her Prince Charming didn't get there happily ever after. After all, Prince Charming only exists in fairy tales. Yang Yang never imagined that their blissful time together would be so short-lived. Just 6 months into their cohabitation, Yang Yang found out she was pregnant. She shared the news with Gu Jianmin, expecting joy, but instead, she was met with a face full of worry.
我说我怀孕了，你不高兴吗？我觉得你应该高兴啊，可是他好像一脸很忧愁的样子，很烦恼的样子，烦躁。他说不行，就跟我讲，他说其实洋洋，我很想让你多了解我一点，了解我的生活、工作，然后包括我的家庭。反正说到这里，我在旁边这样点头。他说家庭，我说你家庭，然后我就顿了一下，我说你家庭，我说你结婚了吗？他点头。
In that moment, Yang Yang's world fell apart. She had always believed that she was the love of Gu Jianmin's life, only to realize that she was nothing more than a clueless outsider. She thought she had the world in her hands, but in an instant, it shattered into fragments of painful memories. Shame, anger, shock. All these emotions hit her like a wave, drowning her completely. If you discovered that the person you loved had hidden such a huge secret from you and betrayed your trust, would you choose to forgive or walk away? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. When love turns into a cage of lies, when happiness becomes a chain of deception, will Yang Yang ever find a way out? Where will this seemingly sweet story lead in the end? Just as Yang Yang was about to unleash her anger, she saw something she had never expected. Gu Jianmin was sobbing like a child, tears streaming down his face. She was stunned.
我从来没见说一个大男人，然后很稳重的一个大男人，然后像呜呜像小孩一样哭，然后眼泪哗哗顺着脸上就那么流下来。当时我也有点惊讶，我说他这样哭，我觉得他一定是心里很痛苦吧。
这个男人不断地跟他说，他要离婚，然后跟杨洋在一起。
他还是觉得是自己的初恋，他希望自己的感情和婚姻将来都寄托于这个人的身上。
所以最后我决定给他时间等他。
Yang Yang's intuition told her that Gu Jianmin's change wasn't just from exhaustion. One night, she found him at a KTV, sitting intimately with another woman who was holding a luxury brand handbag, one that Gu had given her.
给他的一样的那个皮包，然后他就是特别敏感嘛，因为女孩子我觉得在这方面都很敏感。我说郭敬明，你骗人，花天酒地的，你到底怎么样？你让我这边傻像傻子一样等你。我就当那么多人面，我就骂他。我说你这个骗子，从一开始你就骗我。
Humiliated and exposed, Gu Jianmin became enraged.
捡起正好地上有块砖头，捡起来就打我脑袋了。
打头上之后就是伤口就很大，当时到医院缝了4针。
From that moment on, Gu Jianmin seemed to let himself go, and violence became his way of releasing frustration. Whenever life's setbacks overwhelmed him, Yang Yang became the target of his outbursts. After every incident, he would fall to his knees in tears, begging for forgiveness.
哎，我对不起，我真的我不该动手，可我不知道怎么了，我从来没打过女人，我怎么会打你呢？我怎么会对你动手呢？可能是因为爱太深，恨太深嘛，我太希望能改变你吧，或怎么样。而这个名字对我来说太熟悉了，她是我空乘培训班比我高一届的同学，那个女孩子也非常的漂亮，非常不是滋味儿。而原来是这样啊，原来你，我就拿着这个机票，我就在她面前抖，我说你是不是经常坐飞机，只要见到漂亮女孩子，你去要求跟人家留电话呀？我在想到，我就觉得有一种受侮辱的感觉，你明白吗？就觉得有一种受侮辱的感觉。弄了半天，你当时对我那种一脸灿烂纯真的那种笑容，弄了半天你对别人都会使用的，你在别人身上也是会同样会这样的，我觉得有一种被戏弄的感觉。
Yang Yang could no longer believe him. She knew deep down that what had once been sweet had turned into an endless abyss. She could no longer hope that Gu Jianmin would change for her. This relationship had long since reached its end.
当时我又把左手的手腕割破，然后我就看着血一滴一滴的滴到地毯上，就好像每一滴血都是我的一个希望一样，一滴一滴的流逝。我的精力，我的时间，我付出的感情， 还有我的热情就一点一点一点的流逝，就那样一点点流尽。
Just as Yang Yang felt trapped beyond escape, her mother reached out from Canada with a glimmer of hope. She urged Yang Yang to break free from Gu Jianmin, leave behind the pain, and start a new life in Canada with her. In April 2001, Yang Yang finally made up her mind and began the process of moving to Canada. She thought this would be a fresh start, and everything would change. However, no one could have predicted that the night of June 27th would be the end of both her and Gu Jianmin's fates. It started as an ordinary evening. Yang Yang and Gu Jianmin sat on the couch, discussing her upcoming move to Canada. The atmosphere seemed calm, but Yang Yang couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Suddenly, Gu's phone rang, and in an unusual move, he took it into the bathroom.
很关注他接电话到底什么内容，很好奇，他就跑到门口去听。
他的口气很明显是在给一个女的打电话，因为是很温和。他说我很冲动，说你不介意吧？
被害人在电话里说，和其他的女孩发生了什么样的关系吧？
当时我就感觉很恶心，真的很恶心。我会感觉我自己怎么那么卑贱呢？已经太明显的地步了，你还在掩饰什么呀？我说你别再伪装了，我说我就是要让你家人知道，我要让你周围人知道你到底是什么人。
Gu Jianmin was utterly enraged, completely out of control. He grabbed a fruit knife from the table, violently yanking Yang Yang by the hair and slamming her to the ground. His eyes were wild with fury as he snarled, "Do you really think I won't kill you?"
两个眼睛像冒火一样，然后他就恨不得就一下把我撕了那种感觉，把我推倒了，或者抓我头发把我摁地上，
伸手抄起个蛇壳刀，就威胁这个人说你相不相信我敢杀了你？
好啊，你爱我，可我身上爱我，爱到最后你可以就杀了我，我就想我要报复你，我让你知道我也厉害，我让你知道我不是那么好欺负，我不是说像你一块泥一样，你怎么捏怎么湿。那就一瞬间，就那一刹那，我什么都没想，我就是恨他，我就是恨到我想拿刀捅他。他可能从来没见过我那么发疯了。而且他知道我一向都是挺温润，从来没有说打我还手，所以当时我就在想，我自己的命运我已经知道了，我的前途全都没有了，我已经彻底凉了，就彻底的什么希望什么热情全都没有了，我知道我就彻底完了。
On October 8th, 2001, Yang Yang was arrested while applying for an exit visa after an anonymous tip-off. In September 2002, the Beijing Second Intermediate People's Court sentenced her to death. But in August 2003, due to Gu Jianmin's deceit about his marriage, the court revised her sentence to life imprisonment. After her arrest, even her family, classmates, and the police who handled the case felt pity for her. A girl with so much promise, destroyed by a reckless love.
现在我觉得人还是活得比较本真一点，比较真实一点比较好，因为人这一生不可能不犯错，也不可能不遭遇挫折。那么在遇到这些问题的时候，还是要勇敢面对。有时候往往人承认自己错了，那么你才能有改过的这个机会。只是这些事情我认识的都太晚了。而且最关键的一点就是，我不可能让死者死而复生，让那个家庭重新再有欢笑。我再也做不到这些了，这是没法弥补的，这是最遗憾的事情。
When love and desire intertwine, becoming weapons of control and abuse, how long can the human spirit endure? Will you continue to struggle in silence or rise in desperate resistance? In 1968, Omaima Nelson was born into a patriarchal family in Egypt. As a girl, she faced the harsh realities of her father's violent upbringing. and at just 7 years old, she was forced to undergo a traditional ritual that was common in her homeland. Can you guess what this traditional practice is? Although this practice was outlawed in Egypt after 2008, for young Omaima, the trauma from both this ritual and her father's abuse was inescapable. At the age of 12, her mother finally fled with her to Cairo. Life there was harder, but free from the shadows of her father's cruelty, it was also a kind of liberation for Omaima. As she grew older, Omaima's striking beauty and alluring figure began to draw attention. By the age of 18, she had met her first husband, an American oil worker. He pursued her relentlessly, and Omaima quickly fell into this brief romance. In 1986, the two were married and moved to the United States. But the happiness didn't last long. The marriage soon crumbled after her husband's infidelity, leaving 18-year-old Omaima isolated and alone once again. In that period, Omaima nearly lost hope for life, but she didn't give up, spending every penny she earned on enhancing her looks. She knew her beauty was the only weapon she had to change her fate. Then, a turning point came. A magazine noticed her unique beauty and exotic charm. Omaima was invited to pose for the cover as a model. The high pay made her eyes light up. This was the first turning point in her life. Modeling brought Omaima attention and money, but it still wasn't enough. She began to realize that if she wanted to make more and make it quickly, she would have to take a more dangerous path. When night fell, she would dress in glamorous gowns and enter bars. The wealthy, lonely men she met became her prey. To these men, Omaima was a beautiful, mysterious, and seductive woman. She skillfully used her charm to toy with them, and when they let their guard down, she took full control. As they slept, she would tie them up with rope, point a gun to their heads, and rob them of their wealth. Winter of 1991, the setting is Orange County, California. Fate brought Omaima together with her future victim, Bill Nelson. Bill, once an Air Force pilot, lost his honor and stable life due to illegal smuggling. Yet, his wealth and confidence masked his tainted past. A red sports car, a sprawling ranch, symbols of his allure to women. In the bar, Omaima set her sights on Bill. Despite their 33-year age difference, they quickly fell in love, or so it seemed. She knew Bill was her golden ticket. To the outside world, their marriage seemed perfect. Bill was wealthy, Omaima stunning, but beneath the surface, darker truths lurked. Bill soon revealed his violent side. Bill wasn't just a violent husband, he had perverse desires, and every day Omaima had to endure his violent abuses, both physically and emotionally. For her, this marriage was no longer a bond. It was a path to despair. Her body and soul were shattered. For women who had endured that traditional practice, intimacy brought no pleasure, only pain. After a month of torment, Omaima reached her breaking point. On December 1st, 1991, Bill attempted something even more extreme, but this day would change everything. Thanksgiving had just passed, and while families basked in the holiday joy, Bill had a different celebration in mind for Omaima. He grabbed a belt, intending to tie her to the bed. Omaima tried to escape, but her small frame was no match for Bill, a trained pilot. He quickly overpowered her and threw her back onto the bed. But this time, Omaima's rage had reached its peak. As Bill attempted to bind her, she broke free and grabbed a pair of scissors from the bedside table, defending herself. An enraged Bill, wounded but furious, chased after Omaima. In her panic, she grabbed an iron from the table and hurled it at him with all her strength. Even on the floor, Bill continued to curse her. Overcome with rage, Omaima could no longer hold back. She ended the violent man's life with that iron. As she calmed down, Omaima realized she needed to hide the evidence. She made an unthinkable decision to dismember Bill's body and dispose of the remains. She started by cutting off Bill's head, then methodically dismembered his body piece by piece. The entire process took 12 hours. Late into the night, strange banging sounds came from Bill's house. The neighbors thought it was a festive celebration, unaware that Omaima was dismembering a body. Knowing she couldn't dispose of the entire body alone, Omaima called a local garbage man, John, offering him $75,000 to help her get rid of the trash. When John arrived at Omaima's house, he saw the yard filled with black garbage bags, and his curiosity got the better of him. He secretly opened one of the bags and was instantly horrified to find it filled with human body parts. Feigning calm, John told Omaima he needed a bigger truck to carry the bags, and then he called the police. Back at the police station, Omaima maintained her eerie calmness, trying to craft a perfect lie to evade responsibility. She told the police, "I have a mental illness. On the day of the incident, I was unconscious, and when I woke up, Bill had already been dismembered." Her tone was emotionless, as if recounting an ordinary event. However, the forensic report was like a sharp blade, slicing through her carefully crafted lies. Bill's body was missing 130 pounds, leading the police to question whether her memory losses was genuine or just a convenient excuse. The interrogation intensified, and Omaima's story slowly began to crumble. The police intensified the psychological pressure, suggesting that her mental health evaluation showed no signs of illness. Faced with such damning evidence, Omaima could no longer remain calm. Her face grew pale, her fingers trembled, and her defenses finally shattered. "It was self-defense. I just wanted to protect myself," she screamed in desperation. Her lies could no longer mask the truth, and the police had enough evidence. She finally confessed to killing Bill, but tried to frame it as self-defense. No one believed her story. She showed her injuries, tearfully recounting the violence she endured, but it was too late. Do you believe her defense? Was it truly self-defense, or just another web of lies? Share your thoughts in the comments, especially about the missing £130. Where do you think it went? Could it really have been eaten by her? Yang Yang and Omaima, two women seemingly blessed with extraordinary beauty, were instead driven into darkness by it. Their beauty not only attracted attention, but also led them into lives of control and manipulation. It became a chain, stripping them of control over their destinies and driving them to desperate rebellion. Beauty in their lives was a double-edged sword. From a young age, they were oppressed by patriarchy and violence. As their beauty blossomed, they became the focus of desire. Instead of bringing them security, it amplified their feelings of isolation and helplessness. The pressures of life and emotional betrayal pushed them down a path of extreme rebellion. Their beauty made them appear vulnerable in front of men, bringing not love but control and oppression. Their crimes were extreme acts of defiance after years of repression and pain. Through violence, they sought to reclaim their lives, even if that control could only be realized through destruction. Outward beauty couldn't hide the scars within. After being controlled and humiliated repeatedly, both Yang Yang and Omaima chose to fight back. This was their only outlet after prolonged suppression, a powerless struggle against their spiraling destinies. Their calculated retaliation led to irreversible consequences. Beautiful women are often seen as fortunate, but in reality, they bear heavier social expectations and emotional burdens. In their world, beauty became an invisible cage, impossible to escape. Society's obsession with beauty turned them into victims of desire and violence. In the end, they broke free of this prison through crime, at a devastating cost. Beauty didn't bring happiness, but instead became the spark for their tragedies. These women's stories reveal the fragility and oppression hidden behind beauty. Their tragedies make us question, is beauty a blessing or an invisible chain?